Hello, boys and girls. We're going to be looking at rounding when you're comparing and ordering numbers. There is a part in the unit when you're comparing or ordering numbers where you will have to round some big numbers. But I wanted to show you first, starting with some smaller numbers, just to kind of introduce you to it. You'll do a lot more rounding later when you study addition and subtraction. So these are just some rounding words that I wanted to show you. Here's estimate, approximately, closest or closer, nearest, near, about, and round. When you are looking at a word problem or any problem and it has these words, that is a huge clue that you will have to round those words. Always remember to label your boundary numbers and midpoint. When we're looking at rounding, there's always boundary numbers, and those usually have a 0, and then your midpoint will be right in the center, and that usually has a 5 somewhere. So this example says round 176 to the nearest 10. Okay, so 176 is in between two boundary numbers, and those two boundary numbers are 170, 180. So we put a dot where 176 should be, right past the midpoint. So when you're looking at this, I'm going to give you this little example, a little scenario or story to help you remember this in your mind. Imagine you're driving right across this highway. Pretend this is a highway. You're driving, and then your car stops. You run out of gas, and you have to walk to the nearest gas station. So there's a gas station here on boundary number 170, and there's a gas station here on boundary number 180. Where would you rather walk to? And remember, it's hot. You would walk right here, wouldn't you? And there's 3 reasons for that. Of course, it's closer, it's past the midpoint, and the ones place is a 5 or greater. Those are the reasons why you would round a number to that nearest boundary number. So 176 is past the midpoint. There's a ones place greater than 5 or greater, and it's closer. We're going to do this example in a few minutes. We're going to first start off with some simpler one, just to get the hang of it. Now remember, this is just an introduction. So if you're still kind of tricky for you, that's okay. You and your teacher and your other classmates are going to keep practicing this for a long time. So here is an example. It says round 83 to the nearest 10. Let me try to get this on the screen better. Okay. Round 83 to the nearest 10. Now think of the boundary numbers. Remember, you always have boundary numbers. 83 is in between 80 and 90. This is a boundary number. I'm going to put B in for boundary number and B in for boundary number here. And we're still missing our midpoint. So our midpoint goes right in the middle. So what is halfway between 80 and 90? That's right. That would be 85. So now we have to decide where 83 is going to fall on this number line. And this is pretty easy to do because you can actually just draw your little tick marks. It's 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and then 85. Okay, so here's 83. I'll put a big dot there. Where should 83 round to? Am I going to remember our little story? Am I going to walk way to this gas station? Or am I going to just walk right here? It will round to 80. 83 will round to 80 to the nearest 10. Why? Remember, there's 3 reasons why. It has not passed this midpoint. Remember, this is our midpoint right here. And we can put it in different colors. That way we can see our boundary numbers and midpoints, because those are really important. So there's 3 reasons why it always rounds to a certain boundary number. It's closer, that's 1. It has not passed the midpoint. So this is the midpoint, it's before the midpoint. And the ones place is 5 or less. So it has to go back. Okay, our next one says estimate. Look, there's a rounding word. Estimate 85 to the nearest 10. Okay, so 85. Let's put a big circle in 85. And that one's actually on the midpoint. So there's a rule in rounding. If it's on the midpoint, you always go to the greatest boundary number. Even though you would want an equal distance here and here, the rule of rounding is if it's on the midpoint, you go to the greatest one. That's just the rule of rounding that you have to learn. So 85 rounds to 90, to the nearest 10. Later, you will learn how to round to the nearest 100 and the nearest 1,000, nearest 10,000. But for now, that was just an introduction. And then let's do this quick example, because these are kind of problems you will see. This question says, Brianna places a star on the number line to represent the number 47,500. So here's where Brianna put the number. And she says that that number should be 47,500. What do you think? Do you think that she put it correctly? So if you notice, she put it right before 45,000. Is 47,500 less than that, than 45,000? No. Does Brianna look at this number correctly? A says the number is located in the correct place. We know that's not correct because it's not. She actually put it wrong. B, the number should be placed between 30,000 and 40,000, but closer to 40,000. What would be the boundary numbers of 47,000? She has the right boundary numbers. These are her boundary numbers right here. Let's get a different color so we can see it better, a little better. She has the correct boundary numbers. She has 40,000 and 50,000. But where should it be closer to? Has 47,500 passed the midpoint? Yes, it has, right? So it should be somewhere right about here. Put a star there. That's where she should have put it. So it should be placed between 30,000 and 40,000. No, she placed it between the right boundary numbers. So that's not right. The number is between the correct boundary numbers. That's correct. She did put it between the right boundary numbers, but it should be closer to 50,000, which is correct. See, where we put the star, that's where Brianna should have put it. So maybe, question mark. We'll come back to that. The number should be placed between 50,000 and 60,000, but closer to 50,000. It should be closer to 50,000, but their boundary number should not be 50,000 and 60,000 because 47,500 is between 40,000 and 50,000. So our correct answer is C. Okay, that was just a little introduction to rounding numbers. You'll practice this a lot more in the future. We'll see you next time.